Aloha, and welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to be discussing the 5 volcanoes that make up the island of Hawaii. But before we get into that, we have a guest appearance from another island just beyond the clouds there, and that is Maui. And from the closest land points, it's only about 30 plus miles away. Now back to the island of Hawaii. To my left over here, you'll see a volcano, and it is the northwesternmost volcano and the oldest, which is Kohala. And Kohala last erupted somewhere around 60 to 100,000 years ago. With that being said, with it being the oldest, it has had the most time to submerge back into the Earth's ocean as well as erode. And that is what formed the deep valleys on the northeastern side of the volcano. Now, some other things about those valleys. Those valleys were inhabited since ancient times. As far back as we go through oral history, Umi'ilauloa, the first recognized chief of the island of Hawaii, came out of those valleys. Now on to our next volcano, Mauna Kea. Welcome to Mauna Kea, the tallest mountain on the planet. And some of you may be confused by that statement. Well, let me explain. If you take the sum of the 20,000 feet below sea level and the 13,000 feet above sea level, that equals a total of 33,000 plus feet, making it a little bit taller than the famous Mount Everest. Directly behind me in the middle is the summit of Mauna Kea. And Mauna Kea is perceived as a very sacred place to the Hawaiian people, often called Wauauku'a. Wau meaning realm, Akua meaning God, translating to the realm of the gods. But Hawaiians also did not perceive this mountain as an inanimate object. They saw it as a being at one point in time. Every civilization has an origin story, and the Polynesians and Hawaiians were no different. And in their origin story, it's named the Kumulipo. And in the Kumulipo, in the beginning, you have these 3 primordial deities. You have Po, the god of darkness or the void. Then you have Vakea, the sky father. And you have Papahanaumoku, the earth mother. Now, Vakea and Papa had many children together. The first child they ever gave birth to was this mountain that we're on right now. Some of the things that make Mauna Kea so unique are its geological features. Mauna Kea is the only volcano around the globe that is categorized as an oceanic glacialized volcano, which means glaciers stood on it in its past. Most recently as 10,000 years ago. 10,000 years ago, Mauna Kea was also volcanically active, which created a very unique resource, very dense basalt lava that we call Hawaiiite. Now this is formed when that molten lava reaches the glacier face and cools rapidly and allows those gaseous bubbles to expel at a much quicker rate. Now, Hawaiiite was a very important resource for the Polynesians and Hawaiians. It was the most dense rock you can find here in the island chain. In fact, all of Polynesia. But they would make simple tools for carving wood. And this is how we know that Polynesians traveled all over the Pacific Ocean, including places as far away as Easter Island, where tools and weapons made from Hawaiiite have been found, proving that it was the Polynesians that discovered and settled these islands rather than South Americans. And welcome to Hualalai, the 3rd oldest volcano on the island that sits over Kailua Kona. It last erupted in 1801, and it is still an active volcano that volcanologists and seismologists believe will erupt within the next century. Hualalai has also been inhabited since ancient times, before recorded history. It was here that King Kamehameha I resided after conquering and uniting the entire island chain for the last 8 years of his life, dying in 1819. Now, Hualalai is most famous for its coffee, or Kona Gold, that Mark Twain stated was the richest in flavor than any other in the world in 1866. The coffee belt stretches from the elevation of 500 to 2,000 feet. Now, if you pair this with the rich volcanic soil, as well as the perfect temperatures and ample amount of precipitation, this is what makes Hualalai so optimal for growing coffee. Now we're off to Mauna Loa. Now we have arrived at Mauna Loa, the 4th oldest volcano and largest volcano on the island. Also the 2nd largest oceanic shield volcano on the planet. To give you some perspective on how large that truly is, if you were to melt down all of Mauna Loa's mass into its molten lava state again and pour that into the vast Grand Canyon, you'd be able to fill it up bottom to brim 8 times over. Now the flow that we are currently on is from 1935, and this is a very unique eruption because of the events that transpired around it. So 1935, boom, Mauna Loa erupts. Starts coming downhill very slowly, moving about a mile per day, and after about 30 days or so, it was getting close to the Wailuku River that sits on the east side that feeds into the Hilo Bay. Now there was some concern going on during that time. A very famous volcanologist here thought he could help in some kind of way, and that volcanologist's name is Thomas Jagger, often considered the father of modern day volcanology. And he decided to call Luke Airfield Base and request 10 planes. And on each of these planes, he requested that they host two 600-pound bombs on them. And his plan was to strategically drop these bombs on the lava flow where he thought it was being fed to collapse the tubes or divert it in some kind of way. So they went through with this operation one by one, these planes going overhead, dropping these bombs. Most of the bombs on impact just went bloop, didn't even detonate. Only 2 of the 20 did, and the ones that did detonate backfired in their faces because the lava splattered reached their aircrafts and burned holes in them. Luckily, though, for them, there were no accidents. Everybody came away unscathed, and as far as the operation went, it was a complete failure. All right, nothing happened. The flow was still going on, and a week and a half later, coincidentally, the flow had stopped. And this had nothing to do with that operation. All right, but the Wailuku River was still untouched, and Thomas Jagger saw this opportunity to take credit for this phenomenon, controlling Mother Nature, if you will. But he got a lot of backlash from the Hawaiian people. As you know, Pele is a very highly regarded akua, or goddess, or deity. And you as a Kanaka, or mortal being, do not interfere with the akua's work. He also got discredited by his colleagues after they went into these lava tubes and saw that they were a minimum of 50 feet thick and those bombs would have no effect whatsoever. And finally, we have arrived at Kilauea, the youngest volcano out of the 5, where Madame Pele resides. Kilauea is considered one of the most active volcanoes on the planet and currently is slowly filling back up its lava lake. The lava lake is an approximate depth of around 1,200 feet, so deep that you can fit the entire Eiffel Tower down into it. But if you want a more in-depth video about Kilauea, we have one on our channel. Just click the link in the description below.